Thank you for stopping by my channel. It is my hope that you will pick up a tip or two or be inspired by something that you see here today. If you do, don't forget to hit the subscription button so that you won't miss out on the next video. Alright, so Easter is over and Derby is next in my area. I'm in Kentucky. So I'm going to made this for my Easter tier tray. I'm going to remove this. I just used a little tape to adhere it. So now I can take it off and I can reuse this again next year. I'm just going to stick it onto a piece of cellophane or the plastic like your clear stamps come on. It will come off and on, stick on and off of that multiple times without damaging it. So that will save it and I can use it again next year if I want to reuse that. And then I can keep my wooden piece and just keep reusing it. So I think for this one, I'm going to make a few hot air balloons. I'm not sure. I think that might be too big for this. I'm just going to do a few hot air balloons around on this and see how that looks. So I have some scraps from a previous club kit. And I didn't use all the sentiment cards, but the back of the sentiment cards all have, you know, a pattern paper on them. So we can use that to make our balloons. So let's see, I'm going to start with this one. You can use any little bits of leftover paper you have. That's the great thing about the Kiwi Lane tiny accessories and a la cartes. I just take a tiny bit of paper to create. Cut these out real quick. Okay, and then I would like a different color basket on this balloon. I know I did just cut it out, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it down just a little bit smaller, and the shape doesn't have to be perfect. I just want it a little smaller. So then when I trace the basket only onto another piece of paper, I have something to attach it to. So then I can take my tape runner and put a little bit where the basket was that I cut down, and then I can just stick the new basket over top of it like that. And then I'm also going to ink You know what? I'm going to pull my basket back off because I want to ink it separate. And I'm always using the Tim Holtz Distressed Ink Vintage Photo. Well, now what did I do with my basket? Just have it stuck to my finger. Oh my goodness. So there we go. That's hot air balloon number 1. There are many designs and ways that you can do these. So just whatever you like. And again, I'm going to cut the basket down just a little bit. And again, I'm going to ink them. The ink helps if your cuts aren't perfectly smooth like mine, or you have little pencil marks still showing. It doesn't matter because the ink will cover that up and it won't be any issue for you. You can always write on the hot air balloons if you'd like a logo. You know, Porter Paints is a big one that flies around here at Derby time. I'm sure there are many more, but honestly right now I can't think of any others. So I'm going to continue adding balloons until I like the look of this. They can hang out over it, however, it doesn't matter. They can be as uneven and wonky as your imagination allows you to be. I want to add a little more bold pattern to this one. I'm sorry for my voice. It's a little, it's allergy season and I spent a lot of time outside yesterday. And again, this is a scrap piece that from a kit that I've been using. I used a lot of it in my Easter tier tray. I used it for, I believe, 3 different scrapbook pages, and I still have a ton of this left. Now, I have added some solid cardstock to it for either matting photos or just needed a little extra something. So I have added some solid cardstock to it, but who doesn't have a stash of cardstock? So the kits go a very long way if you're not already a club member and you want to check into becoming a club member. Just give me a yell and I'll help you get that set up. Sometimes I get my finger in the way and I can't trace. So I'm going to just continue making balloons until I'm happy with my coverage. Okay, so I decided I did not like the look of the balloons just on the wood, so I cut a piece of just white cardstock, and I'm going to hopefully make this look like a sky background with some blue ink. So I'm using a Stampin' Up! Ink pad, Soft Sky is what I'm going to try, and I want to see, there we go. I can just ink this paper and leave some white fluffy clouds in there. And I'm going to add in some Coastal Cabana, also a Stampin' Up! Ink pad from years ago. Get some different shading and variation in here. Probably should have put a piece of paper down behind this to protect my desk, but it's not permanent ink. It should wipe back off. So it's just a suggestion of a sky and clouds. I just didn't like the plain wood background with the balloons. It just didn't seem to pop good enough. Let's see. I do like that much better than just the plain. Here it is with the plain. So I'm just not overly thrilled with that. So I am going to add paper. And I believe I'm even going to add a little of the vintage photo to the edge. It, to me, just gives it a little bit of dimension so you can see all the different layers in your project. Okay, so now I want to put a title across this. So I'm going to use the Springtime 1 flag. I'm just going to trace it. Cut it out. I'm going to cut this away first. So I think I'm happy with the way the balloons turned out. And this will go on my tier tray on an easel, just like the bunny did for the Easter tier tray. There are so many events that go on here during Derby. I can't do them all on a single tier tray, but I'm gonna try and hit the highlights, the main ones. I purchased some things from the dollar store, Dollar Tree, and modified them to fit into my plans as well. Let's see what color. Maybe this one. My handwriting is awful. Alright, the Great Balloon Race. Put that about there, I think. There we go. Now this one is ready for the tier tray. And the main event during Derby is the horse race, so I thought I would cut a few horses to go in my tier tray. And I'm using the carousel horse from the Fun Fair Kiwi Lane Club Kit. Oops. And I'm just leaving the post out. So I'm tracing the horse and I'm not going to use the pole. Then I would just cut out several of these, ink them, and I think I'm going to put them along the edge of the tier tray. That's what I have in mind right now. So it looks like they're running around the tier tray shelf. So I'm going to cut a bunch of these out and ink them in several colors, because horses come in a variety of shades of browns and blacks and grays and whites. So, and again, I'm just using scraps that I had left over from other projects. So whatever's in my scrap bag is the paper I'll use. I hope the weather is wonderful where you are at. It has been great here this weekend. Have your windows open so you may hear a little bit of traffic go by. I apologize. I don't think it'll be too bad though. I'd like to finish all these components today and get this out. Some of these pieces, with all the turns and curves, I have to go back and touch up a little bit with my scissors, but not too much. A little here, a little there. Alright, so just gonna... Okay, so I've got my horse cut out, and I'm gonna ink it just like any other piece of paper around the edges. Pop in the corners so you can get in there. Around the legs can be a little tricky. Just hold them back out the way so you can get in there. And then what I'm doing on the tail and the mane, I'm just taking the dauber and rubbing over it so it kind of gives it the look of a little hair. And then for the mane, I'm doing the same thing in an upward motion. And it's not exact, but it just gives the look. So I want to cut this larger balloon. It was from a Kiwi Club kit from January of 22, the Fly High. And for this one, I want to do it a little bit different. So I'm going to trace it all out. Oops. There's two ways you can do these cutouts in the balloon. I'm going to do it where they're actually cut. So, step 1, cut out the balloon. And I'm going to do the basket on this one just like I did the basket on the others, in a different color. But I trace it on so that I have something to adhere to. This dark paper can be kind of hard to see sometimes. Okay. Move that out of the way. I'm going to turn on another light so that I can see my lines here. And then I have this tool. It's called the gyro cutter. Looks like this. And you know, I've seen people post on Facebook about it and talk about how they didn't like it. Personally, I think it's wonderful. You do have to have a hard cutting mat behind it. And you do have to make sure your blade is turned in the correct position to be able to use it. But once you've got those things down, you can just swivel and turn. Each time I turn the paper, I swivel my blade so that it is in the right direction. I hope you can see that. And then, voila, a hole in the middle without having to make any extra cuts through. And then I'm going to do the cutouts the same way. I'm following my line. It does take a little practice to be able to follow your lines fairly careful, or fairly close. It is handmade, not machine cut, so it's not going to be perfect. Oops, I didn't press quite hard enough there. And I have found it fairly easy to go back over when I don't cut through. It tends to follow my lines pretty well. Oh shoot, I still didn't get that one. There we go. So you do have to apply some pressure to the blade to get it to cut all the way through. And like I said, these lines are very hard to see. You may want to try with lighter colored paper the first few times till you get used to it. But they just pop right out. You hold it like a pencil. And I bought this at a craft show in Schaumburg, Illinois, several years ago. So I'm not sure. You could probably find them online. They sell replacement blades as well. When I moved, I lost this. I stuck it away somewhere when I was packing, and I just found it about a week or so ago. So I was thankful to find that again. I'm having to turn my paper so I can see my line. And right here I missed just a little bit, so I'm going to go in with my scissors and clean that up. You could easily just put ink on it and it would be fine. Well, I'm having a hard time getting those today. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to put a little ink around the whole thing. Just rotating and turning to get to all the, well, I just inked my fingers. Which isn't a big deal. You just have to be very careful not to get the ink on your paper when you do that. And inking on this one helps define the layers when you put them all together. This one here I'm going to do from the back side to get inside that square, because I'm going to make a mess all over the paper doing that. So I want the mess on the back, not on the front. There we go. So then I am going to layer it, I believe, with some, yeah, I think orange. I think I like that. So I'm going to take the balloon and put it over the paper. And as you notice, it's not a full balloon. It doesn't meet everywhere, but it doesn't have to, because I'm going to adhere it to the back and let it show through the front. Now I'll have to erase that because that's way too big of a slip to let go. It's going to look yucky. Some of it won't show, but some of it would have, so I'm going to cut that out. This doesn't need to be inked because it's not going to show. It goes on the back. I'm going to trim that down a little more because it was sticking out. And this side the same. Trim it down just a little more. There we go. Oh, I cut the tip off. So there. That's the way you get your layers. I'm going to put tape, sorry about that, on the balloon. Just enough to hold it in place. There we go. Hot air balloon with the cutouts so you can have the other layer showing through. Okay. A very popular drink here around Derby is called a mint julep, and it usually comes in a silver julep cup. So I took this paper, just plain old cheap paper cup and painted it to look like it was metal. And then I took green paint and wrote mint julep. Sticking out of the mint julep is typically a piece of mint leaf, about 4 leaves usually. So I am going to attempt to make one out of paper and toothpick to put in our mint julep. So the first thing I need, I'm using the autumn set. There's a little leaf. It is about the right size and shape to be a mint leaf. And then I'm going to rub it to loosen up the paper with my flower tools. Just rub all around. Sorry, I forgot to ink it. Ink it first. It's easier to ink before the paper is curled. So I got it started that way, but the mint leaf curls the other direction. So I'm going to put it on the back and rub so that it curls up and becomes a little bit pliable. But then the stem of the leaf I need to curl the other direction so I can attach it. Okay, so now I'm going to try to make this just a little bit smaller than that for the inner layer. So I'm going to trace it just like before, but then once I cut it out, I'm going to trim it down so it's small. Alright, now to make it smaller, like that. I might want that even just a little bit shorter. There we go. Now I'm just going to trace it to make my second leaf. I'm going to rub it the same way before I attach it to a toothpick to mimic the stem of the mint. And then the stem comes up. There we go. I love these tools for curling your paper. It just works so well and so fast. I've done it using just the end of something that's smooth and round, but I really like these tools. Alright, and this foam mat is the key to all of it. Alright, so I have my toothpick. I'm just going to dip it in a little glue. And then at the top, I'm going to attach my two little leaves, my two inner leaves. Oops. And I'm going to get a little glue on my paper here and attach it, whoop, come back here, straight across, and wrap it around as well so that my leaves are parallel from each other. Hold that just for a minute. Okay, now I'm going to take just a little strip of paper, put a little tape on it, and then I'm going to wrap it around this to hold it while the glue is drying. There we go. Then the next two leaves are going to go on the opposite sides. So we'll get a little glue. And we'll get a little glue. And there we have our mint leaf for mint julep cup. So once this dries, we'll put it together. And so I want to put some clouds on the hot air balloon layer of my tier tray. So I'm going to trace out a couple of these. It's wacky 2T, tiny wacky, I'm sorry. Yep, and I had ink on my finger apparently, but I think that'll be alright because I'm going to layer these on top of each other. Oh, come on, paper. Cooperate. There we go. Little ink. And when I layer these together, I'm going to cut a second cloud, cut it in half, and use it for my layer. So it'll be like this. There we go. Okay, so now that I've made all the components for my tier tray, it's time to put it together. I'm reusing the same grass that I had on the Easter tier tray and the same rope that I had on the Easter tier tray. I'm just going to change out the elements that are in there. So, I'm going to start with our great balloon race. And then I'm going to add in, here's our Derby horse winner. This came from Dollar Tree, and it was a congratulations grad unicorn, and I just removed the horn and the graduation cap and the words congrats. Got some stickers here that say Derby, and I made a garland of roses for his neck. So I'm just moving some of this grass out of the way so he will stand in the bottom here. There we go. And to make the garland of roses, I just took a thin piece of sheer ribbon and curled paper to resemble the roses and used hot glue to attach it to the ribbon to make the garland. And then during Derby we have what's called the chow wagon. If you're not from around here, you may have not heard of it. Or maybe they have them in other parts of the U.S. and I'm unaware of that. Very possible. But chow wagons are basically a bunch of food vendors and music. So, well, didn't have that sitting quite right. Alright. So, again, at Dollar Tree, they had this little ice cream truck, and they had this little camper. And you could actually use this because people come from all over and camp in Louisville to go to the Derby, but I turned it around and made it a funnel cake truck. So again, I'm just going to move some of the grass out of the way and put the funnel cake truck on here. And then we have the mint julep. I'm going to place the mint julep, I believe, here next to the Great Balloon Race. Mint juleps are a popular drink. Doesn't sound like something I would like. It's Woodford Reserve bourbon, I believe, and mint, and I'm not sure, maybe there's other ingredients. I can't remember right now what they are, but not my cup of tea. Now for this next part, I'm going to use removable glue dots to adhere things to the outside of the tray. And I want the removable ones because I'm reusing the tray, and that way it won't always have a Derby balloon on it. And let's see. No, I changed my mind. I don't want him down there. I want him up here. Come on, glue dot. It's not wanting to come off the cellophane. There we go. I'm going to put this one up here. And then I have our clouds and some other hot air balloons I'm going to put around this tray. At varying heights and levels. And you could do this all the way around the tray if you want, but where mine sits, it only needs to be decorated on one side. So I won't go all the way around. It just seems like a wasted effort. My glue dots are being stubborn. I'm not sure. If maybe they're a little old. There we Well, man. Okay, note to self, buy new glue dots. Put a little tape on the back of this one because it's not wanting to stick. There we go. And then I have horses to go around this top tier. Well, nothing wants to stick. There we go. All right, now I'm going to put these horses up here. And then I have one more piece. It's a little banner that says, "And they're off." And I'm thinking, let me get a look at this. Where should it go? I believe that should go right there. So there we have it. A very simple derby tier tray. If you try this, I hope you enjoy it. Have a lot of fun making it and sharing it with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed and picked up a tip or trick along the way. Be sure to click subscribe if you did. Thanks. See you next time.